Here's a surprise we just found out. It turns out that Katie Britt is a liar.
I am looking forward to delivering the Republican response to the State of the Union, so tune in.
President Biden's border policies are a disgrace. This crisis.
Jonathan Katz has posted this on TikTok, which I'll share with you, and at the end, there is actually video evidence. Yeah, again, Katie Britt, you thought she was bad? She's a bad liar, like really bad.
So you have no doubt seen this woman on your For You page at various points today. That is Senator Katie Britt, the junior senator from the state of Alabama, who delivered the Republican response to Joe Biden's State of the Union last night. It was weird, but the part that was the weirdest for me, the part that was the most off, was this.
When I took office, I took a different approach. I traveled to the Del Rio sector of Texas. That's where I spoke to a woman who shared her story with me. She had been sex trafficked by the cartels starting at the age of 12.
So I immediately had questions. Who was this woman? How did she meet her? How did she get her to tell her this story? Also, she seems to be describing something that had happened over the process of years. She said that it started when this woman was 12, and she says that she's a woman now, so it seems that some time has passed. How much of this happened on the border? What country did it happen in? Did it happen before Joe Biden was president? Senator Britt, right after that, stated pretty directly what side of the border it happened on, or at least she implies it very strongly.
And we wouldn't be okay with this happening in a third world country. This is the United States of America.
All right, so there's the answer. It happened in the United States. Or did it? So I looked a little bit to see if I could figure out what Senator Britt was talking about here. And I found it pretty easily. Senator Britt has told the story over and over and over again since going on this trip. So all I had to do was look for details of the trip, see if there was any information about who she talked to, and if there was any more information about this case there. And I think I found it pretty easily. So in January 2023, Senator Britt, who had just become the junior senator from Alabama, traveled to southern Texas to the Del Rio district near the border of Mexico with two other Republican senators, Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee and Cindy Hyde-Smith of Mississippi. And Senator Blackburn had all of the information about it on her website, her senatorial website. During this trip, among other scheduled visits, the senators had what they described as a round table, although you can see it's not a round table, it's a long table on which they are sitting on one side of it. It's a press conference. They were there with a Fox News contributor, Sarah Carter, who often does sort of the xenophobic anti-immigration coverage, as well as a Mexican congresswoman who's become an anti-human trafficking activist, as well as this woman, who the senators identify as Carla Jacinto Romero. All I had to do was click on Carla Jacinto Romero's name, that hyperlink, on Senator Blackburn's page, and it took me to this. This is Carla Jacinto Romero's testimony to Congress from 2015 about her experiences in Mexico. And if you scroll down, you see it took place between 2004 and 2008. Now, I don't know what they put in the textbooks in Alabama these days, but Joe Biden wasn't the president of the United States in 2004 or 2008. He wasn't even the vice president of the United States. That wouldn't happen until 2009. In 2004 to 2008, the president of the United States was George W. Bush. Vice president was Dick Cheney. And none of that really matters here because these events didn't happen in the United States. These crimes didn't take place in the United States or even near the border. They took place in Mexico, in Guadalajara, in Mexico City, and other parts of Mexico. Does U.S. policy have a huge role to play in the Mexican drug wars? Do Mexican drug cartels get their weapons from the United States? Do they get most of the money that they make selling and transiting drugs to the United States? Absolutely. But this didn't happen when Joe Biden was president. It happened 20 years ago when George W. Bush, a Republican, was president. And Jacinto Romero didn't share her story with Senator Britt. Britt tells it like she's like sitting by the banks of the Rio Grande, like holding her hand, like getting her to tell her the story that she won't tell anyone else. I mean, that's sort of the affect that you get watching that video, right? This is a professional activist. I mean, I'm sure she went through the things that she went through. I'm not discounting that at all. And she's clearly a very brave person who has overcome a lot in her life. But she tells this story in public. This is her testifying in front of Congress in 2015, 9 years ago, almost a decade ago. This is what she does. She goes around and tells people this story. And she did it for the senators in January 2023. And yet this senator has gone around repeatedly for the past year and change, telling the story over and over again as if this woman had confided something in her and as if she was describing actions that had taken place on or even near the US-Mexico border during Joe Biden's presidency. I don't even know what to say except that is just fundamentally dishonest. It goes beyond misleading. She said it in the piece of the video that you saw before. She says, we wouldn't accept these things if they happened in a third world country. Well, they did. Mexico is definitionally a third world country because it wasn't aligned directly with the Soviet Union or the United States. And it is also colloquially a third world country in the sense that it is a non-English speaking country of the global South that is more poor than the United States on average, although it is actually better off than a lot of other countries, even Latin America. But that's neither here nor there. It didn't happen in the United States. It's not an example of something that happened recently, or it's not even an example of something that happened on the border. And there's certainly not something that happened under Joe Biden. So why would she share that story? It seems very clear to me that what she's trying to do is she's trying to create an association in people's minds between Joe Biden, the border, Mexicans, Latin, people of Latin descent, something like that, and sexual violence. That's what she's going for. And she's doing it on the basis of what you can only say is just an out and out lie. She knows that she knows when this woman's experiences happened because this woman has talked about them repeatedly. I'm sure she talked about them and gave very specific indications of when it happened at that press conference that she was at in Del Rio. It must have been very obvious to her, at the very least, that she wasn't talking to somebody who had recently been 12 years old. After I watched this, I looked up her spokesperson, which is never easy to find these days, but I found an email address.
Every state's a border state. Every town's a border town.
Explain
because what is
meant.
happening here, and you all
Other incident that she was talking about.
Cartels have been reaching out to some of the other larger communities.
For now, it just looks like she just got on national television.
And between these bridges here are where the bulk of all the drownings were taking place this past year. A group of 10 here, a group of 5 there, and it all just accumulates into these large groups. Well, I'll talk about the drag road a little bit. Down there is some tires that we normally pull down the road. This is how we maintain the roads to actually be able to take.
It's a little girl that just, I don't know how much she suffered, but you can see that.
Here, after seeing what you see, after being here. We are out here tonight seeing what happens as migrants make that journey across the river.
There is no doubt that under President Biden, it is open season for terrorists, drug cartels, and human traffickers. We're seeing what they do firsthand, and what we continue to hear from Border Patrol agents is we just want to be able to do our job. We need policies in place that allow us to secure our border, keep our nation safe, and our communities strong.
Yeah, we're here representing our states, but not only are we representing our states, we're representing all women in this country, and we've had the opportunity to visit with those that have been victims, and it's happening every day. I think it's pretty unique that we have 3 Southern women here together to come down so we can be that voice to let the world know exactly what's happening, but not only what is happening on this border, but it's going through all of our states.
We have camera towers up here. Just charge you for crossing. They'll charge you for the busing them through Mexico to a certain place. They get them to this spot. footprints, start to walk a horse across the river, and they'll just put them on horseback and walk across the back.
Turn themselves in,
That's right.
claim asylum.
Right, they know.
Drug mixture in there.
This is an ID from somebody from Cuba. They ditched the ID because they do not want to be sent back. They've made it this far. They're at gate 1 and they're ready to put their hands up and claim asylum.
But it's effective and it keeps them out of the neighborhoods. I mean, really, that's the 7 Del Rio is what you guys have. Since the traffic picked up in El Paso, but there's still plenty of it happening. Yeah,
It appears that this group, there's 2 children with them, and it appears that they're going to get in this freezing cold water and try to swim across.
But we're watching the illegals right now cross over, and then you've got the illegal part out there. They're on there now. But then they can continue on, and we will actually watch them enter this country illegally.
Yo estoy aquí con unos senadores de los Estados Unidos que están aprendiendo qué está pasando. Pero que yo te puedo decir.
With their children.
Riding in the horse.
¿Pagaron a alguien para cruzar? Nadie le pagaron. Ustedes tampoco pagó a nadie.
If we can get more personnel, that's the key. Yeah, fencing.
They are effects.
So the people that we sold to.
Another area. So this area was commonly being used. So we have air support, we have drones operating to deliver to us.
They don't lose their life.
Correct. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We are grateful.
First on Halo.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, so good to see you. Nice to meet you. Hi, Katie, Britt. Nice to see you.
Nice to meet you, man.
Hi, Katie, Britt.
Thank you.
Katie, Britt, thank you so much for bringing you here.
100 people on the whole count. They're just walking.
No.
It is the morning after the most disastrous rebuttal State of the Union speech you've ever heard from Katie, SHI, etc., etc. So much that the internet is delivering. Where shall we start? Okay.
And now let's play. Katie Britt inside the actor's studio.
What is your favorite word?
Rural.
What is your least favorite word?
Unvarnished.
What turns you on?
Putin's brutal aggression in Europe.
What turns you off?
Bidenomics.
What sound or noise do you love?
Or
What sound or noise do you hate?
moms and dads just like you.
What is your favorite curse word?
Alabama.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Sweeping the floor at my dad's hardware store.
What profession would you absolutely not like to mess around with?
And cleaning the bathroom at my mom's dance studio.
And if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Are you better off now than you were 3 years ago?
The jury is out, by the way, on her Natalie Portman impression.
And we stand with you.
This is not what I ever would have wanted, but I'm so...
But it's not just about delivery, it's about content. She really did troll every single SNL and comedy sketch to come up with the right material.
It's important to be educated. When we educate ourselves, we become educated. If we don't get an education, the Chinese win. They win.
I never could have imagined what my story would entail. To think about what the American dream can do across just one generation, in just one lifetime. It's truly breathtaking. But right now, the American dream has turned into a nightmare.
And we'll be back with more The Handmaid's... can't say it. We'll be back with more The Handmaid's... start again. We'll be back with more The Handmaid's Fail after this quick break.
Here's what I'm going to do to Biden's tax and spend agenda. I'm Nancy Mace, and I approve this message.
We're still in an ad break. Don't come back to me yet.
Sitting all alone, crying in pain from hunger. I can't quit thinking about this.
So there was a camera, by the way, that was kind of in a reverse position as Miss Britt was doing it. And just look at the director's face. He knows the Golden Globe Award is going nowhere near them.
President Biden's border policies are a disgrace. This crisis is despicable.
Great so far.
And the truth is, it is almost entirely preventable.
And then sudden smile.
From
must act natural to fool the humans.
If you've ever had any acting or drama coaches, one of the things they teach you is pronunciation and elocution. And you warm the voice over going, ma, 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 or in Katie, I'm going to get the rain right one day. Katie Shit's case, it is Biden. No. You can imagine in a drama class, she's going, Katie, give me more B from the backside, as if you're doing any Trump bullshit.
Like so many families across America, my husband Wesley and I just watched President Biden's State of the Union address from our living room. One thing was quite clear, though. President Biden just doesn't get it. President Biden, we know that President Biden's border policies, of President Biden's senseless border policies. President Biden, and tonight, President Biden, Mr. President, enough is enough. We know that President Biden's failures don't stop there. Well, President Biden, and unfortunately President Biden's weakness, the president has demonstrated. President Biden has failed. And what does President Biden do? The free world deserves better than a dithering and diminished leader.
I've actually worked out what really went on. Let's be serious for a while. Katie Britt literally went on ChatGPT and said, give me somebody who has the same initials as me on how I can do a delivery which will get my message over.
I never could have imagined what my story would entail. To think about what the American dream can do across just one generation, in just one lifetime. It's truly breathtaking. But right now, the American dream has turned into a nightmare for so many families. The true, unvarnished state of our union begins and ends with this. Our families are hurting. Our country can do better.
Coming soon, Bigfoot, Sasquatch and Dirty Money. After more, The Handmaid's Fail.